something my husband told me ages ago, because we all go through experiences, and life is full of surprises. But he was a helicopter pilot in the British Army for 10 years. And sometimes on really hard days, I remember once he said, "Yeah, but my love, even if there's a storm happening, above the storm, the sun's always shining." And that's a perspective that only comes when you think about zooming out a little bit. So I think when you really zoom out and think, my gosh, how many things have we gone through that have felt hard and then you still get through them? Or how many goals did you think you're not going to hit and then you hit them and you supersede them? So it's so important to maintain that perspective that no matter what feels insurmountable, there's just always that sun shining above it.
Squaddies, have you ever seen that one person who walks into a room and, without saying a single word, somehow changes the whole vibe? We've all met somebody like that. The music's playing, people are chatting, everything's normal. Then they walk through the door. Heads turn, smiles get bigger, phones come out. Everybody wants to say hello. That's exactly the energy Meghan brought to this special screening. Now, don't get me wrong, the Cookie Queens documentary already had an incredible cast, talented filmmakers, and a story worth celebrating. The night belonged to them. But here's what happened. The moment Meghan arrived, another layer of excitement kicked in. People wanted photos, people wanted to greet her. The cameras naturally followed her entrance. Not because someone forced them to, because that's where the attention went. And that's something you can't fake. Here's what regular people understand. Imagine your cousin throws a birthday party. Everything's planned perfectly. The food is ready, the decorations look amazing. Then your favorite aunt walks in, the one everybody loves. Suddenly the room gets louder. People rush over for hugs. The selfies begin. Did she organize the party? No. Did she steal the party? No. She simply added to the atmosphere. There's a difference. That's what I saw here. Meghan didn't have to stand in front of the microphone all night. She didn't need to make the event about herself. Just showing up created another wave of interest. And here's the funny part. Some people act surprised every single time this happens. Really? At this point, it shouldn't shock anybody. When Meghan supports a project, people notice. That's been happening for years. Whether it's a charity, a small business, or a creative project, her appearance often brings fresh eyes to it. That's good news for the people behind the event. More conversations, more coverage, more curiosity. Who wouldn't want that? Let's be honest, squaddies. If you were premiering your own documentary and someone with a global profile decided to come support you, you'd probably be thrilled too. That's just common sense. Here's the bigger lesson. Real influence isn't always about being the star of the show. Sometimes it's about helping the show reach more people. Sometimes it's about giving someone else's hard work a bigger spotlight. That's a different kind of power. And it's one that doesn't need a speech, a title, or a grand entrance. Just one appearance, one smile, one moment. By the end of the night, people weren't only talking about who made the documentary, they were also talking about the excitement Meghan's presence brought to the celebration. And that tells you something. Some people don't need to be the main act to become one of the biggest talking points. They simply walk into the room, and the room responds. Squaddies, this hit me differently. Nowadays, everybody's an expert. 5 minutes on social media and suddenly somebody's teaching you how to survive life's toughest moments. But every now and then, you hear advice that carries a different kind of weight. Not because it sounds fancy, because it's been lived. When Meghan shared that Harry once told her, "Above the storm, the sun's always shining," I didn't hear a catchy quote. I heard experience talking. Remember, Harry spent years serving in the British Army and trained as an Apache aircraft commander. In that world, staying calm isn't some nice little personality trait. It's part of the job. When conditions get rough, panic doesn't help anybody. You have to think clearly. You have to keep your bearings. You have to remember there's a bigger picture beyond what's right in front of you. That's a lesson you don't pick up from scrolling your phone. Life teaches you that. Here's why I think this connects with so many ordinary people. We've all got that one person in the family. Maybe it's your grandfather, maybe it's your mum, maybe it's that uncle who's been through everything imaginable. When they give you advice, you stop talking. Why? Because they've earned the right to speak. They've survived things you haven't. Their words carry scars, and scars have a funny way of making people listen. That's how Harry's advice landed for me. It didn't sound like somebody trying to impress the room. It sounded like a husband reaching into his own life and handing his wife something that had helped him stay steady. That's powerful. And here's the beautiful part. Meghan didn't keep those words locked away.
She passed them on. She could have talked about herself. She could have made the whole evening about her own journey. Instead, she shared something that had helped her through difficult days. That's what people do when something genuinely changes them. They don't hide it, they pass it forward. You know what's funny? The world is full of people giving advice they've never had to follow. But the words that stay with us usually come from people who've been knocked down, got back up, dusted themselves off, and kept walking anyway. Those are the voices people remember, not because they're the loudest, because they're the realest. And maybe that's why this moment felt so different. It wasn't about royalty, it wasn't about headlines, it wasn't about making a dramatic speech. It was one simple thought, shared at the right moment by someone who found comfort in it and believed somebody else might too. That's something every one of us understands. At the end of the day, the best advice rarely comes wrapped in perfect words. It comes from people who faced their own storms, kept moving forward, and reached back to help someone else do the same. And sometimes, one honest sentence from someone who's lived it is worth more than 100 motivational speeches from people who haven't.
Squaddies, can we be honest for a second? Flowers are nice, fancy gifts are cool. A romantic dinner? Nobody's saying no. But you know what lasts longer than all of that? The right words at the right time. That's what caught my attention. When Meghan shared that Harry once told her, "Above the storm, the sun's always shining," it wasn't just the quote that stood out. It was this: she still remembers it. Think about that. Out of all the conversations they've probably had over the years, that one stayed with her. Why? Because it helped. That's what real partnerships look like. The strongest couples aren't walking around pretending life is perfect. Please, anybody who's been married for more than 5 minutes knows that's not real life. Bills show up, stress shows up, bad days show up uninvited. The question isn't where the storms come. The question is, who's standing next to you when they do? That's where Harry's words hit differently. He didn't wave a magic wand. He didn't promise life would suddenly become easy. He simply gave Meghan a different way to look at a difficult moment. Sometimes that's all a person needs. A new perspective, a little hope, a reminder not to give up. We've all seen this before. Think about your grandparents or that older couple in your neighborhood who's been together forever. Ask them what's kept them going. They probably won't tell you about expensive vacations. They'll tell you about one conversation, one sentence, one night when everything felt like it was falling apart, and their partner said exactly what they needed to hear. Those are the moments people carry for decades. That's real love. Not the movie version, the everyday version, the kind that says, "I've got you. We'll get through this. Don't lose hope." Let's keep it real, squaddies. Anybody can be romantic when life is smooth. The real challenge comes when everything feels upside down. That's when character shows up. That's when you discover whether your partner adds more pressure or more peace. And from what Meghan shared, it sounds like Harry gave her something she could keep reaching for whenever life got heavy. Now that's a gift. Here's something I love. Meghan didn't tell that story to prove how romantic Harry is. She shared it because those words still help her, years later. That's the part people shouldn't miss. Advice doesn't stay in your heart that long unless it genuinely made a difference. At the end of the day, squaddies, love isn't only about holding hands in front of cameras. It's about helping each other stand back up when life knocks you sideways. It's about becoming each other's safe place, each other's steady voice, each other's reminder that bad days don't last forever. And sometimes, the most valuable thing your partner will ever give you isn't jewelry, it isn't money, it isn't a title. It's one simple sentence that stays with you long after the storm has passed. That's the kind of love people never forget.
Squaddies, can I say something? Not every appearance has to be about breaking the internet. Sometimes just showing up for the right people is the biggest statement you can make. That's exactly why I think Meghan got this one right. The Cookie Queens documentary wasn't about celebrities chasing attention. It was about young girls, confidence, leadership, community, dreaming bigger than your neighborhood. Now tell me, who wouldn't want to support something like that? This is where I think people miss the point. Some folks see Meghan at an event and immediately ask, why is she there? Wrong question. The better question is, what is she there to support? Because this wasn't about another glamorous red carpet. This was about helping shine a light on a project centered on young girls finding their voices. That's worth showing up for. Let's bring it down to everyday life. Picture your niece performing in a school play. The auditorium isn't packed with Hollywood stars. It's packed with parents, grandparents, cousins, neighbors, people who came because their presence matters. Does your sitting in that audience change the script? No. But it tells those kids what you're doing matters to me. That feeling stays with people.
That's why showing up is powerful. You don't always have to be the one holding the microphone. Sometimes the biggest gift you can give is your time, and Meghan has made a habit of doing exactly that. She could have stayed home. She could have skipped the event. Nobody would have forced her to go. Instead, she chose to support filmmakers, young women, and a story that celebrates leadership and perseverance. That says something. Here's another thing I noticed. She didn't arrive acting like the evening belonged to her. She listened, she smiled, she encouraged people. She shared a personal story that fit the message of the film. That's how you support a project without taking it over. And trust me, the people who poured their hearts into that documentary probably appreciated having someone with Meghan's profile help bring extra attention to their work. That's a win for everybody. Let's keep it real, Squaddies. In life, we all remember the people who showed up. The friend who came to your graduation, the coworker who supported your small business, the neighbor who attended your fundraiser. Those moments stick with you, not because they had to be there, because they chose to be there. That's what makes support meaningful. So yes, I think Meghan absolutely did the right thing by attending the Cookie Queen screening. Not because she needed another public appearance, but because the project itself deserved encouragement. At the end of the day, real influence isn't just about being seen. It's about deciding where you're willing to stand. And when you use your platform to help more people discover a worthwhile project, everybody wins. The filmmakers win, the young girls whose stories are being celebrated win, the audience wins. And that's a whole lot more meaningful than simply walking another red carpet. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Love you all. I am your host, Miles. Blessed week ahead. Goodbye.